So welcome to the 2016 PLA Summit. My name is Kiana Golfin, and as we prepare to get our summit underway, we would like to invite Dr. Blackwell to come forward to provide us with some welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Kiana. It's great to be here. When I started in higher education a few years ago, I recall when assessment started kind of becoming something that people were talking about. And they were talking about outcomes assessment. And the question, of course, was, yes, you measure what your students are learning, you test them and so on, but how do you know whether students get it or not? And your first reaction is, I know. And it's like, well, how would you prove it to somebody else that they know? Oh, well, that's a little different. I kind of get a feel for it in the class and that type of thing. So then I became a true believer in assessment. And then I kind of went the other extreme, which was that if you can drill down and figure out how to articulate what the learning outcomes from a course should be into 3 or 4 or 5 specific learning outcomes, then you can figure out how to get students to demonstrate those outcomes. Why do we care how many hours they sat in the seat? Why do we care how they got that information? Could we just say, okay, everybody, here are the outcomes, see you in 15 weeks, and bolt. It would be great, and I think some students would take us up on it. However, I'm pretty convinced that they would fail miserably most of the time. That said, we do know that many students come to us with many years of experience doing the things that they then come to us to get certified for and to study. And that has to be worth something. It has to be worth something to have, the people who have worked alongside their father from being a child, and she's pulled a car apart and put it back together 1,000,000 times, and then walks in to us and we say, okay, car mechanics 101, there's where you start. It's like, really? So we know that prior learning has value. We know that you don't have to sit in a classroom for 15 weeks in a chair, take a test, have somebody stand in front of the room in order to gain knowledge, in order to gain skills. And so we're here today to talk about the process of how we codify, how we recognize that learning that our students have acquired prior to coming to us, or maybe they came to us and then they went away and then they came back. Any number of ways that people have done that. It may be through having served in the military. It may have been in that scenario of working informally in a profession and never having pursued the actual certification. So this is, I think, at a core of what community colleges should do, that we need to be the credentialer of learning, of knowledge, of being able to put down on paper that which we can measure and say we, as an accredited institution, recognize what this person has as a knowledge and skill set. And we've got to shorten the distance from day one to that certification, whether that be a diploma, a certificate, a degree, an opportunity to transfer with credits, whatever that may be. This is an opportunity to expand our knowledge here in the room on how to help students shorten the distance to that credential. I'm really proud to be a part of it, that CCAC is doing such good work, and we have miles to go to make sure that we can facilitate the creation of this opportunity for every student who can reduce those hours of engagement on our campus and trade it for some of those hours off for what they've done throughout their lives. So I hope you have a good afternoon. I think you will, and you've got some great people here to help us through this. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Blackmon. So as we continue with our discussion, I do have some information that I would like to share with the group regarding PLA. It's certainly important for us to have a better understanding of what it encompasses, because we have been doing PLA for quite some time, not only at the community college, but at other colleges and universities. However, this concept of portfolio reviewing is essentially a newer process in terms of PLA for CCAC. So let's start with providing a definition of PLA. PLA stands for Prior Learning Assessment, and it is a term that is used to describe the process by which a person's experiential learning is assessed and evaluated for purposes of granting college credit, certification, or advanced standing toward further education or training. And as I had previously stated, we've already been doing this. And the ways that we have already been working with PLA is through the form of transfer credit. So for years, students have been sending in their transcripts from other colleges and universities, and we evaluate them in order to award them advanced standing credit for the programs that they're pursuing here at CCAC. We've also been a part of issuing credit through CLEP, as well as through other credentials that students may have, or certifications or licenses that students have by way of different articulation agreements that we have. We also offer credit by exam. We have the joint services transcript for military personnel, where we can evaluate a lot of military experience and make those decisions regarding which types of credits they can receive as a result of their experience. We've also awarded credit through ACE and through, which is new for us, portfolio reviewing. Okay? And so about a year ago, CCAC became involved with this concept of portfolio assessment, whereby students are provided the opportunity to pursue advanced standing through the presentation of a portfolio. And essentially that is done through, there's a portal, if you will, it's called College Credit Fast Track. So there's a website where students will log into and they set up their profile, and once they've done that, they can select which courses they are interested in pursuing college credit for. And then once they have made that selection of the course, then there are what are called PLA advisors, and each of the directors of registration and advisement at each location is assigned a specific division of majors, whereby we work with those students to coach them with moving on to the next step of presenting their portfolio. And so each course that a student submits to receive this credit for is $129 per course, which that's still relatively affordable when you think of things in the larger picture as it relates to the cost of attending college, okay? And so because CCAC is pretty much the new kids on the block with this whole concept of portfolio assessment. We were able to, by way of winning a lottery, attend a conference in 2015. And it was the CALE conference, and CALE stands for the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning. So I was the lucky winner to get to attend this particular conference to learn more about the adult learner, and what is this concept of portfolio reviewing and PLA on a larger scale, and to kind of see what other colleges and universities are doing so that perhaps we can maybe think about or at least start those discussions surrounding what can we do here that will make it a lot easier and a better experience for our students who are pursuing credit in this fashion. And so CALE, by nature, their priority is to help adults. And so they want to be able to help adults to continue their learning throughout life by working with educational institutions and employers, as well as labor organizations, government, and communities on creating effective adult learner programs. Okay? They also help employers to identify, different programs and needs within the community that perhaps, colleges and universities can create those partnerships with them to design programs and, in essence, be in a position to provide that type of credit for those experiences. They also help employees who may have been working, in a particular industry for a really, long time, but they don't have the papers, the credentials to back them, but they have that experience. And so this whole concept of, prior learning assessment and portfolio assessment certainly positions those employees to be able to pursue credit and meet the needs or the requirements of their employers. With institutions of higher education, CALE also has a platform where they can go in and coach different institutions in terms of how to set up their portal to help students navigate that system. CCAC, however, again, as I had previously stated, we use CC Fast Track as our means to invite those students in and to work with them through there. But through CALE, they have their own that they can go in and assist students with. And lastly, with economic and workforce developers, it helps those different industries who have different skill demands for us to, to be able to go in and say, if your employers or employees require these particular skills, here's how we can help you. So it's a great positive working relationship to be able to make these connections, and from my estimation of it, everybody stands to benefit from it. Okay. Now let's talk about the adult learner, because again, with PLA, this is who is attracted to this the most, the adult learner. Would you believe me if I told you that traditional age college students only make up 1/3 of those who attend college? Okay, so with that being said, the adult learner can certainly bring stability to the enrollment and retention challenges that a lot of colleges and universities face, because if you think about the adult learner, what type of attributes do they have? They're very focused, they're very centered, they know what they need, they know, the path that they need to get to what it is that they need. Therefore, they're very serious. When they have made the conscious decision, I'm going to pursue this degree, or I'm going to pursue this certificate or this diploma, I know that I have to have certain requirements met and a specific time frame in which, I need to work on this. So they're pretty much pretty focused on getting in and getting it done. Okay? So with that being said, if traditional age students only make up 1/3 of that population, why is it that colleges consistently aim to recruit traditional college age students? So this was a question that was on the table at this conference. So it causes us to kind of rethink, why is that? a lot of resources are poured into recruiting the traditional age student when we're saying that only makes up a small segment of the population that colleges and universities serve. Okay? And so, with that being said, there is a value in taking a look at how the business of higher education is conducted. And a couple of ideas emerged as a result of that question, and one of them being policymakers need to be urged to make changes. And so what CALE does is they kind of take a look at the data that is presented and tie that into the needs, and they are that voice with those policymakers in order to affect change. So some of the things that we can think about in terms of policy changes, for example, perhaps it should be reviewed how financial aid is awarded. Should aid be awarded for 3 credit enrollment versus 6, especially if students are looking to get loans? Or how about awarding aid for PLA? You know, for students who are specifically pursuing college education, they have the credentials to pursue PLA appropriately. Never before has it been considered. You know, maybe we need to think about awarding some sort of aid for PLA programs, okay? And so the other idea in terms of rethinking how college business is conducted surrounds this thought that sometimes colleges inhibit their own innovation by adhering to antiquated policies that do not serve to accommodate the adult learners, okay? So a lot of times colleges and universities have their regimented ways of doing things, and while that may have worked well in the past, because we're talking about this adult learner population, it stands to rethink, go back to the drawing board in terms of how we're servicing students, with the understanding that the adult learner has a general desire for faster time to complete their programs, okay, at an inexpensive cost. And so being able to get prior learning credit can certainly aid in that goal for students, okay? And so what has been discovered is, for the adult learner, the degree is their pathway to getting the job, not necessarily what they're learning. So it's how can I get what I need to get it quickly so that I can move on and begin working in the job that I am pursuing. Okay? So instead of thinking about or teaching what to think, because we're going to be welcoming all of these adult learners, which is completely different than the population that colleges and universities are used to working with, there's some changes that are needed. And so, with that being said, instead of teaching students what to think, perhaps colleges need to teach students about how they think. And that's through this concept called metacognition. Okay? So, if you think of a traditional classroom setting, you have the lecturer, and they're telling students, you know, verbatim what to think, how to process it. But do you ever think about how you're thinking? How to arrive at the solution that you're looking for by having an awareness of your thought process while you're doing that. And so lecturers need to think about what they want their students to gain. And so traditional indicators of successes are misleading. Education is no longer about the information that individuals are being given. It's no longer, you know, we're going to create this assessment via, you know, a test. And then that student is going to kind of, you know, just regurgitate the information because they have an excellent memory and be able to regurgitate that information right back to us. So it's just kind of reshaping and rethinking the things that take place in the classroom. And there was a unique idea in terms of doing education by doing it first. And the presenter provided this example of how many of you ever played the game Angry Birds? Okay. And so with this do first education, when you first logged in to start playing Angry Birds, how many of you, by show of hands, read the directions, the instructions on how to play?
There are instructions?
And so with this do first, you just jump in there, right? And you learn and you make mistakes, and then you kind of figure out, oh, this is the object of the game, this is how you get in there and do it. Well, this is the same concept that can be brought into the classroom versus the traditional lecture. Allow students to solve the problem first, or try their hand at solving the problem first, and then when they run into bumps in the road or encounter some hurdles, then as the instructor you can kind of jump in and help them to reshape and arrive at a better understanding of how to solve that problem. So it's almost see what you don't know first, and then we can help you. And so all of this is in an attempt to get educators, colleges and universities to again reconceptualize how it is that we're approaching the students that are on our campuses and being able to retain them and to keep them. Okay? Now, as far as PLA and this whole portfolio process, one particular college at the conference did a session, and that was Colorado Community College System. So it's a whole system of different colleges and universities within Colorado. And so with their work with PLA, they transcripted, if a faculty member, the assessor, decided to say, hey, you know what, this student has been able to demonstrate their mastery of the course objectives for this course, and we're going to award credit. They transcripted that credit, those credits to that student right away. Whether or not the student had ever taken a class at their institution or not. Okay? So they decided not to uphold the 1 credit residency requirement. And I know here at CCAC, we will not transcript credits until a student has completed a course at CCAC first. Okay? So, in a sense, their method is a great recruitment tool. It's a great way to kind of look to gauge where the interests are in terms of students seeking out their institution. Hey, look at what we can do for you. You have this experience, we want to work with you in order to determine whether or not we'd be able to give you credit, and once we decide that, hey. And so for an adult learner, if I know going in that I'm going to get this credit, then I'm going to keep going further and further with this particular institution until my goals have been reached. Okay? They've also created guidelines based on national best practices and training for assessors, as opposed to varying assessment practices of the colleges. So beforehand, all of the colleges within that system kind of assessed however they felt best. And so what was nice is they all got together in this system and said, this is the method that we are going to use. That way it will provide for consistency with our student population. And then, to take it a step further, PLA credit must be accepted for transfer among all state system colleges as long as those credits apply to the programs that those students are pursuing at those state colleges. So that's another barrier that was removed, and it was nice to be able to have an agreement among those, not only the community colleges, but the state system to say, if students are awarded PLA credit, we're going to accept those for our programs as well. And then, to add to it, transfer guides and articulation agreements must contain information on the transfer of PLA credit. So it's out there for everybody's consumption, for everybody to be aware of it right from the start. And then, lastly, they devised a system-wide cost matrix, meaning that no matter which of the colleges you attended within that system, the cost for pursuing PLA credit was going to remain the same. Prior to that, they had varying practices surrounding the fact that they would charge anywhere, less than 50% of the tuition cost per credit. So they removed those inconsistencies and leveled it across the board, which made it a lot more attractive for the students and easier for them. So how is CCAC doing? I like to say we're the babies of the bunch because we've only been doing this for about a year, and we're actually not doing too bad. Within this past year, we've been able to transcript and complete 6 petitions. So we've had students who have been able to demonstrate their mastery of course objectives for the programs or the courses that they were pursuing, and we've been able to give them credit for those courses. Now, currently, we have 72 active petitions within the CC Fast Track portal. So those students have reached out to us to say, we're interested in finding out more about, what types of credits we can earn as a result of the experience that we've been able to have in our working lives here. Okay, so we're still trying to navigate and figure out what is the best delivery method and the best way to put all of this into practice. And so we've had a lot of help from the deans as well as a lot of faculty to serve as assessors, and we can certainly use more, because as adult learners continue to seek credit, it's only going to expand, the need for help in terms of you as faculty members to lend your services and your expertise to evaluating those portfolios for students whenever it is that they are seeking to earn that credit. And we've had students, submit 6 petitions at once. There was one student that submitted, I think it was 25. So they want it, and we want to be able to provide them with what it is that they need when they come knocking at our door. Okay? And so, for your information, in case you have any questions surrounding, who do I refer students to whenever they are inquiring about PLA, well, each of the campuses, the directors of registration and advisement, we serve as what are called PLA advisors. So we work with those students on the ground level to get them started through the process. So Lucille Atkins is the PLA advisor for Allegheny campus. Kiana Balkan, that's me. I'm the PLA advisor at Boyd campus. Susan McCleary is the advisor at the North campus, and Tiffany Evans is the advisor at the South campus. So if at any time you have questions or you're unsure about how to assist a student, or if you even think based on your interactions with students, you might be a good candidate to pursue credit through PLA, feel free to connect them with us, and then we can take it from there and direct them accordingly. Okay? Are there any questions or comments, thoughts from any of the campuses? Yes.
Is there a limit for the number of credits?
Wait, that's a question.
John, you had said that Colorado Community College, that this was a best practice concept. Do you have any indication that we're going to change the findings, that we're going to adopt any of these best practices here within CCAC?
At this time, the question was, is CCAC considering adopting any of these best practices of some of the other colleges and universities? At this time, we haven't, but it has certainly opened up the discussions concerning how we might be able to do things differently as a result of that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, that's a question right here.
Okay, we have a question, Allegheny.
Is there a limit on how many credits you can receive?
Okay. Is there a limit on the amount of credits that students can receive through PLA? The answer to that is students have to adhere to the the residency policy here at CCAC. So at least for associate degrees, they have to at least have 30 CCAC credits, with the exception of if they're pursuing general studies or liberal arts, it's 21 CCAC credits. And then for certificates and for diplomas, it has to be at least 50% of their credits have to be CCAC credits. So the remaining credits can be PLA credits.
Or transfer.
Or transfer, or collect, or whatever method that they have as well. Yes?
Do you know if programs where PLA is disallowed, like the RN program?
Okay. Does PLA, the question was, does PLA restrict certain credits in different programs? And the answer to that is yes. A lot of the allied health programs and science courses that have labs associated with them are not eligible for credit through PLA, particularly due to the lab components that are attached to them. Yes?
Is that not allowing the lab component across the board or just the CCAC?
The question was, is the not allowing the lab component a CCAC rule or universal? And I don't think, Diane,
We haven't really benchmarked a whole lot of colleges in terms of what everybody else is doing. I would think it's pretty standard across colleges that how can you replicate that observable stuff that has to happen, something that a teacher has to observe?
right. The answer to that question was, do other colleges and universities accept lab components, or is this exclusive for CCAC? We haven't benchmarked what other colleges and universities do, but it is kind of hard to replicate that experience that is learned in the lab to be able to demonstrate that through the presentation of a portfolio. So our best guess is that it's pretty standard for all.
Usually it's disallowed because that coursework can lead towards careers in licensing, where licensing is required. So usually that's why you don't have PLA for science courses like that.
The answer, another feedback that was provided is that a lot of those courses lend themselves to the attainment of licenses. So a lot of times those particular programs and courses are disallowed because, again, it's hard to replicate that information and to be able to demonstrate mastery of it. And as well as clinicals, those definitely have to be taken, on site as well.
How do you transcribe it? Do you transcribe it as ENG 101 and with a particular grade, or how do you transcribe the PLA on your transcript?
Sure. So the question is, how is it transcribed? Whenever we award credit, it would come in as, English ENG 101, and then the grade would be P for pass.
Kiana, this is Sue.
Yes.
Could you explain to everyone how a student prepares a portfolio, what's required in it, the course outlines or the objectives, and also how many people turn in a resume if it's not accepted?
Okay. So receiving college credit for your portfolio is much more than just a student submitting a resume. What the student must do is go onto the CCAC website and pull down the master course syllabus for the course or courses that they are interested in receiving credit. They have to take a look at those course objectives that are outlined. And they have to be able to demonstrate their mastery, their knowledge, their understanding of those course objectives by providing supporting materials as a part of their whole portfolio to say, I've met these course objectives. So if they've had, we've had students record send in recordings of themselves, giving speeches, or if they've had to present at conferences and that was recorded, they can submit that type of information. They do have to write a self-statement, I believe it's 5 to 7 pages. So it is a lot of work that goes into properly and effectively preparing a portfolio.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether Deb's going to do this later, but one of you can pull up the site and show it to everybody. Maybe we can even find one of those portfolios
Okay.
and show it. You're going to do it.
Yes.
You mentioned
But hear that,
you've got 6 portfolios
hear that,
that
Fiona.
have been accepted. How many have been, that were complete? Have there been any that were not accepted?
Okay, so Sue, to address your question, we're going to demo what the CC Fast Track website looks like. The
Okay.
other question that just emerged was, are there times where portfolios are rejected? And the answer to that is yes. But before it even gets to the rejection stage, the assessor has the opportunity to allow the student to submit additional material that they may be deficient in to try to compensate for the fact that the first submission didn't contain enough information. And then after, they submitted additional material, if it still was insufficient, then yes, there have been instances where those portfolios have been rejected.
When they're rejected, does the student still pay the $129?
The question is, when they're rejected, does the student still have to pay the $129? And the answer to that is yes. The $129 fee is non-refundable, and that is made known to the student up front.
And the fee is, what they are paying for is the assessment. They're not paying for the credits, they're paying for the assessment. So if it's denied, it's still.
Yes.
That's a CALE standard that they pay for credit assessed, not for credit earned.
Right, so the $129 fee goes towards the assessment, not the credit.
Right, and then also as the advisors, myself and Kiana, the directors of registration, we may recommend to the student that if they wanted to go for English 1 and English 2, and they feel that they have enough competent knowledge of that, we may recommend that they take the CLEP test instead. Many times, I've had a student already who had the credits at another college or through the Army, and we were able to bring the credits in from there. So we can also refer them to the other ways to get credit other than the PLA. With the PLA, we also tell them that the PLA may be $129, whereas the CLEP may be $90 or something like that. So we inform them of that.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
On our policy, we're showing 135 canceled portfolios. Is that representative of those that did not have all the information, or does it vary?
So whenever it shows that there has been a canceled petition, that could be as a result of various things. Sometimes students, once they submitted their petition and the advisors reach out to them, several months can go by without them communicating back to express their continued interest in it. So they're given, notification that, it's been 3 months since we heard from you. Are you still interested? If not, we're going to cancel your petition by this projected date in the future. So that can also contain the reason why petitions can get canceled. They can also get canceled if a student has submitted a petition for a course that's ineligible for credit in this particular fashion. And then there's also another category of cancellations that take place whereby we can cancel a petition for maybe the class that they submitted, but make a recommendation to earn credit through another form. And so that counts as a cancel petition as well.
You also cancel them once we notify somebody with the petition that is, when they put in for like 5 or 6 courses, and we notify them that they have to do a portfolio for each individual course, other than just giving us their resume, and that it's $129 per course, they may write back and say, I'm no longer interested. So we get those too. They think when they if they write down that, I've been an executive for 25 years, we'll just automatically give them every business course we have. And once we tell them that's not the way it works, then they're no longer interested.
Yes, and in an effort not to lose those students that we've had to cancel, here recently we've been working with admissions to provide them with the list of those students, because while PLA credit earned in this format may not have been appropriate for them, we don't want to necessarily lose them as a student, and hopefully by doing so, by reaching out to them, we can say, okay, well, this didn't work, but did you know that you can pursue so many other things at CCAC? Let's start that conversation in order to see how we can still assist you, even though this may not have worked out for you.
I have a question, West.
Okay?
Hi, this is Trish. I'm an academic advisor. I hope I didn't miss this part of it. But once I see students and they want to do a portfolio, and I get the go-ahead from Sue, I want to know when that portfolio is submitted, who is the person or persons that says, yes, this is good enough for PLA credit? It can't be just an academic advisor, like, let's just say it's for blueprint reading or welding or, that nature. Who says yes, this is good enough to grant credit?
Are you speaking in the sense of approving a portfolio that has been submitted?
Yes, once the portfolio is submitted, okay, who was the one that said this portfolio is up to speed, it covers all the master course syllabus objectives, it demonstrates knowledge, and we can now give this student credit. Who's the one that grants that credit?
The faculty assessor is the one that makes that determination. So whenever the PLA advisor works with the student to say, yes, we give you the approval to go ahead and submit your materials for your portfolio, the director then reaches out to the academic deans for recommendations of faculty members who would be willing to serve as an assessor. And so once that assessor has been identified, then that portfolio is forwarded on to the assessor for evaluation. And then the assessor can make that determination, yes, credit can be given, or no, credit cannot be given. And their decision is final.
So the assessor is basically the content expert for whatever that particular course.
That is correct.
And does advising have anything to do with trying to gather these particular individuals and guide them this process? It looks like the advisor is like jumpstart first, the person goes first student, and then they guide them through like how to file a petition, am I correct?
Right. While working with students, an advisor, if in your conversation with that student and taking a look at their records, if you feel that they could certainly get some credit based on some of their experiences, you can certainly recommend that they try to pursue credit in this fashion.
Okay, and I have, because we're over here with trades, and I do get a lot of people that, just like what Mr. Blackwell was saying, they've come in and they said, I know how to book a motor report, why should I take the CCAC 101? So we do get a lot of those here.
Yes, so in that instance, it would be a good idea to recommend that they, pursue PLA credit in this format to see, what they could possibly earn credit for.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, I would like to invite Deb Gaber up. She's actually not only one of our advisors, she's also adjunct faculty as well, and she has assessed some portfolios with us as well, so she's here to share her experiences.
Hello, everyone. I had worked with 2 students that became approved with their PLAs, and in my area, which is computers, it was very objective. They provided not only, like they were saying, the 5 to 7 page experience that they're trying to show me what they have done in the past, but also naturally their resume and work experience, etc. But they also provided documents, and in the latest one that I just did, it was for an Excel spreadsheet course. So naturally everything that they were providing to me were the Excel spreadsheets. So it was very easy for me to look through those and just check off one by one the learning outcomes. This person had much more experience than we even are teaching in that particular course. There were probably 2 outcomes out of all of them that I really would not be able to assess unless I was sitting next to them watching them create the Excel spreadsheet, goal seeking, and some other one. So out of all the other outcomes, they had done well more than needed in that experience. The first person was a woman who owned her own construction company. And so that was for a simple CIT 100 course, which goes over Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access. So again, she is providing me, and I'm able to look into her documents and make sure that she is the person that has the properties for this particular document. And so it was relatively easy to go through these to make sure that she had the experience and the knowledge for the learning outcomes for these courses in the work product. If there aren't, they also recommended, and she was probably one that had submitted letters of verifications from other vendors that she worked with, so they were able to give her the credibility that we needed if there was something that was in doubt. And really, for either one of them, I didn't even need to communicate with the student and say that I needed anything more. They had supplied more than enough for me to see and to give them credit. But if you do need to get back in there, you can message the student and say that you want something else from them, that there's something that is lacking that you need. But it's not a constant back and forth. That's supposed to be done in the beginning to plan the portfolio, and then you are supposed to, as an assessor, get all the information and then just say if there's really something that you see that's a glaring void in what you have, then you would need to get back in there with them and tell them exactly what it is that you need before approving it. But otherwise, it really isn't that long in reviewing all of this. Are there any questions that anyone has?
We're going to see if we can pull up the site there to show you. And while I'm doing this, if you are considering serving as an assessor, there is compensation for it in terms of 3 hours at the per diem rate. So we certainly, welcome individuals from all disciplines to think about serving as an assessor, because we do have a great need for more faculty, and adjuncts are able to serve as assessors as well. Let's see.
Yeah, folks, you should be able to see our Can everybody at the other site see the fast track site?
We can see it north. See it west.
So what we've done is we've opened up in the CC Fast Track portal the section where the student has submitted their portfolio information. They were seeking to earn credit for Business 130, Business Communications. And so here shows you all of the supporting documents that they submitted. They had a personal essay, verification letter. Let's click on one here. So this looks like their resume that they submitted. And again, as we had said, that's just one portion of what they can submit for credit. Verification letter that they submitted from an employer. And again, all of these pieces of information lend themselves to creating a stronger portfolio for that student, and it gives the assessor more material to look at and helping them to make their decision. And there's a message center that contains all of the communication that takes place between the student as well as the advisor as well as the assessor. So we try to keep all correspondence within this message center because it allows us to provide the documentation for what takes place if we ever need to refer back to it. Even if the student speaks with us on the phone, we can still summarize the phone conversation in this message center in order to keep a paper trail of what has transpired. And it has actually proven to be helpful for us in some instances where we've had some difficult situations with portfolio reviews in the past. Okay. I'll log out of here, but we just wanted to show you where the students are going to upload their petitions and how we work with the student in terms of rendering that final decision for them. Yes?
Does it interface with your SIS or anything, or no? It's just a separate system?
Yes, this is a separate system that we use.
And this is the same system that's used by all 14 community colleges across the state.
All right, so that is all that I have to present, and now Diane Jacobs is going to come forward with some additional pieces of information and activity for us.
Okay, well, good afternoon, and I want to especially thank Kiana. She's done a wonderful job this whole week since I've been assigned to some additional duties at the college. She has taken over the administrative responsibilities around PLA, and she's done a fabulous job of being the administrator for the system and helping out assessors and helping the advisors, and I really want to congratulate her on bringing a lot of information back from the Kale conference as well too, so job well done. And also to the other directors of registration and advisement, Lucille, Sue, and Tiffany. They have put in just hours of hard work into this process to take a system that just didn't exist at CCAC and work with the rest of their colleagues across the state and make this work based on what all the 14 community colleges were doing. We kind of have been through our first year in operation, and I think we've learned so many lessons and kind of have a lot of our processes established so that we can now continue to really move forward and make this as beneficial to our students as we can. And also keep in mind that these other 4 super women of registration also do, and I'm not sure that people realize how much they do in terms of transfer evaluations. For, every college transcript that comes into our institution, I think when we did look at it, something maybe like 19,000 a year, some crazy number of transcripts that are evaluated every year to determine what transfer credit to award for students coming in. So that's a lot of time that they spend on that, and just to put a plug in for them as well, they are in the process of beefing up our master equivalency database in Colley, so in the student information system. So we're hoping that we can, a lot of the other colleges also already use this other tool, and I believe Carlo does, and I think that Chatham uses it as well, in terms of a database where we can put a widget on our website, and students can even go and say, well, I got this course from Pitt, how does it translate to here at CCAC? So we are getting closer to being able to get that master equivalency database set so that we can share that statewide and have that available to our students and advisors, et cetera, online too. So that's something else that we're really working hard on as well. I thought what we could do as a final activity and kind of get some interactive discussions going as well too is I picked a few very common courses, a couple of common courses that students have picked to be able to apply for portfolio credit, and ask you in the room to kind of look at these learning objectives and think through as a student, if I wanted to challenge this particular course, what would I have to do? What would I have to prove to a faculty member in order to get the yes by the assessor on this as well? So if you hold on 1 second while I bring that up. So when we're developing portfolios, and Deb talked a little bit about this with you is that the student has to prove that they've learned. It's not a matter of just because I've done this, I should be able to get college credit. Just because I'm a manager and on my resume says I am a supervisor, does that necessarily mean that I have learned all of the basics of principles of supervision? Just because I supervise doesn't mean I really know it or are good at it. And so in that sense, too, it's not just the resume. And actually, as we talk to our students about, they have to submit a resume to this, but it's really kind of like more of a working resume and an evidence-based resume as opposed to just what they would be doing to apply for another job, et cetera. So how do they really document? You're not documenting your experience. The experience may have informed your learning and allowed you to learn that, but the students are challenged to document how they have learned, and then what evidence can they also include to document what they learned. So what I've done here is, here is business communications. Hopefully everybody can see that out of the campuses as well. So these are the learning outcomes for Business 130. So what I'd like you guys to do, and I'm going to turn my microphone on mute, and if you're at like West Hills, I see you've only got a couple people in the room, so you can discuss this among yourselves. If you've got a larger group in the room, kind of break down into groups, and I'll leave this on the screen. So pretend you're an assessor or an advisor helping a student develop a portfolio. What would they need to do to prove to you that they've met the learning outcomes for Business 130? So I'm going to mute ourselves here, but you guys all talk, and then when I go like this, we're ready to come back and discuss. So this is Business 130.
I'd be so lost.
So does somebody out there want to unmute themselves and share what thoughts you came up with in terms of business communication?
We have a question at North. The question came up if somebody who's in a petition wanted to do something live for like a presentation to show that they can do that, is that possible?
As long as it's something that could be worked out with the assessor, I would see why it couldn't happen. In fact, that's what a lot of colleges will do too.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
So any specific ideas in terms of this business communications course? Lucille, your group was talking. We were very moved. In fact, one of the things that Lucille was just saying too, it's like if you're helping a student and you help them look at the learning objectives together, and they say, I don't understand this, well, guess what? You should not be doing a portfolio.
Hello, everyone. We had a very robust conversation that began with the statement that they can understand the outcomes, and they certainly have proven they don't have the proficiency in that particular area, so they shouldn't be encouraged to continue. Among the outcomes that we saw that might be a bit problematic was listening. How do you prove listening? And we didn't get far enough to really determine how that would be, but I should think that an evaluator, an assessor, looking at 11 learning outcomes, if you have a student who can prove proficiency or improve their knowledge, and the majority of these, I should think those more intangibles, should we say, would probably not be used against the student. But on number one, illustrate a basic understanding of the theory, concepts, and principles of business communications. It's very logical to think that a student or an adult learner could have been working in this field for quite some time and understand those principles and concepts of business without ever having read the textbook. So perhaps the thing to do would be to say, if we were you, we would get a textbook, go to the bookstore, go to the library, take a look or whatever, and then take a look at those principles and concepts and the theories, and then sit down and write out how what you have done, what your knowledge base is, how that would complement the various theories, concepts, and principles. You then have to translate that into your portfolio and produce the evidence that you need. Written assignments, number 2, written assignments in class communications. Those I think could be proven with information from your life. Principles of effective business communications, those I think would also go back to what you would have picked up in a textbook. And I think that's perfectly legitimate to refer them to a library or a good book for that. Oral presentation, I should think that we have students who, oddly enough, request speech a lot, and each of them is told to do a video or present something that we've done at a conference or whatever. I guess that's it. That's about as far as we went.
Yeah, and one point I would make too is number 9, recognize the importance of listening. So you're not necessarily needing to assess how well they listen, but the recognition of the importance of it. So, and that whole essay that they will write is the crucial linchpin for all of it. So that, in fact, what we probably should be recommending to students too is when you go to organize that essay probably should have an introduction that describes yourself and your goals and your experience, and then the rest of the essay should probably have a paragraph on each, should be organized around the learning outcomes. You want an assessor to be able to say, check, 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 in terms of all of that. So a lot of these too, in terms of the principles, as Lucille said, they've looked at the textbook, they've organized it, and in the essay they're going to describe to you what they know about those principles and theories. And that's the other piece too, especially the principles of management. I've managed for 20 years, but do you understand the principles and theories behind that as well too? So it's not just experience, it's the knowledge base that someone may have picked up from all those years of experience. Now here's another, and how did you still know that was in the next one on my list? Speech 101 is something that we're starting to see too, especially the students that are listing all the different courses they want to challenge. Speech 101 seems to be in there a lot too. So take a few minutes and talk then about how a student will be able to prove to you that they have accomplished all the learning objectives of speech 101. Okay, now we come back together again. Do I have any?
We have a question on the topic of this. I have Joan Catone? Okay, from La Roche here, and she has asked, since we put a P on when we bring in credits, how does that go back to a school? How can they interpret it since when they transfer, how transferable is it to like La Roche who is looking for a letter grade?
Well, I believe too, when same kind of thing though, so even when an assessor is looking at this portfolio, the assessor is making a judgment that the proof that the student has provided is equivalent to somebody getting a C in their class. Doing well, if they can prove that they have accomplished all these learning objectives, they really are assessing and confirming that, yeah, that's C-level experience in a college classroom. We have asked all of our articulating partners, whenever we do a portfolio, articulation agreement, that they are recognizing our portfolio credit as the same, as part of that package towards the associate's degree once they're accepting the that portfolio, and I've been pleasantly surprised that all of our newest articulation agreements over the last year have included that in there as well too. So we're going to expect to do the same thing as for portfolio credit coming back in. The recent reverse transfer agreement from the state system of higher education with us also has a clause in there to recognize portfolio. So it's something that's growing, and not sure that it's universal guarantees out there, but that we are hoping that at least most of our partners are recognizing that when we post it to the transfer. What other suggestions or observations do we have about Speech 101 and how what would a student need to do to give you some preponderance of evidence that they learned what they would have if they were taking oral communications?
I'm Deborah Price, I'm the director of PLA at Chatham. And
Why don't you come up? Oh, cool. So everybody.
hello. One of the things I look at when I'm doing PLA is also if an auditor sees us at some point, are we covered? Like, can we show that all of the learning outcomes are covered? So with something like this, and I'm not the assessor, but meanwhile, part of my job is to give our assessors something that, they pay attention to when they get it from me so that they don't think, oh, it's just her again. I try to send things to them as ready to be assessed as possible. But I think what I recommend to a student here is that they produce some sample speeches, walk me through the process. How did you consider your target audience? You have the same speech maybe that you adjusted for more than one target audience. Can you show me the first draft versus the final draft? And just walk me through the process of it. And honestly, you can't, the informative versus persuasive, I think that they need to get their hands on a textbook and show that in academic terms and properly cited. That's one of the hang-ups I get with PLA students sometimes. They don't really want to write it. They just want the credit. But that it's properly cited so that if we in turn, when Middlesex comes around and wants to look at our PLA credit, they see that it's highly scrutinized, but also we have a phrase, credit earned, or credit where credit is earned. It's our little one sheet on it. And I think this gives so many people great opportunities. But that's what, sometimes I'll just say, show me some of your work that exemplifies this, walk us through the process. But I do keep my eye on that if this ever gets audited, to make sure we're covered. Thank you.
Great point, thank you. Yeah, and the whole other idea of this as well too is that speech, and speech 101, I mean, this one is going to be most appropriate for those individuals that have been working, that have been out there working and speaking in public and giving presentations and really not afraid to get up in front of the group, et cetera, too. So you're going to have to make sure, too, what's the student's background and where they're coming from, et cetera. And if they're prepared, if they don't have to sit through or speech 101 class, then yeah, the assumption is that they have been doing all this, and so how do you go about to provide that evidence? And YouTube videos is probably the best way to do it, et cetera. And I was saying that if you were to include a video of that speech, that your essay would talk, of course, too, about, well, how do I analyze the audience, or when we talk about the evaluating topics presented by fellow classmates, well, then probably you may want to include a section on how you evaluated another speech, et cetera, by anyone out there in the public vein or something too, so that you're covering all of the bases with the learning outcomes for that. And also other evidence could be the program, the conferences or programs that you spoke at. So show us
the program with your name on it that you were presenting, or a letter from the supervisor that says, yes, this person has made these presentations, et cetera, too, so that you've also got that, just further evidence that you are the owner of that work. Okay, so I think that gives people a good example. Do we have time for one more?
I just want to make a point. Sue actually brought up a good point earlier on, but about CLEP, but not just CLEP. I think it's important that anybody involved in PLA evaluation should be aware of all the other sources of credit that are available to students that may preclude them from pursuing this whole portfolio thing. There's CLEP and Dante's advanced placement, all these other ways that they can earn credit for essentially the same courses.
Exactly. That was Bob Russo reminding everybody, too, as Kiana said when we started out, so maybe we're going full circle, is there's a lot of different ways to do PLA. Think of PLA as an umbrella. Portfolio is just one of them. So the last thing we want to do is have someone pay $129 and spend all this time developing and amassing all these documents and writing an essay, etc., and then, oh, well, you had this here is on a transcript somewhere that we can transfer in, or ACE credit, American Council on Education, or CLEP, etc., too. So we want to make sure we're pointing people into the right direction as we can.
I think, too, that maybe there should be more encouragement for the academic departments to encourage faculty to develop CBE. And I think there probably more could be available than are available.
So Bob is also suggesting that credit by examination might also be another option for the departments to do. And actually, if this syllabus up here were math, pretty much if people are wanting to challenge math, we're saying go take CLEP. How are you going to write an essay and provide documentation that you can do math, et cetera, too. So a lot of this, too, is really has to be based on what's most appropriate and has the most common sense for our students. I just wanted to talk about English 102 real briefly, and that CLEP might be a very good option for someone with English 102, or the way we have a research-based English course too. This might be, someone may have already done a lot of research-based, research papers, etc., and be able to use that as a opportunity to challenge for portfolio in English 102. But the one thing we have had is one of our students, though, then wanted to use the writings she did for English 101 and challenge 102. It was, well, no, it doesn't quite work that way. But if there were a lot of research papers, etc., it would probably have to be from a wide variety of experiences with that student, rather than, we're not going to double dip here too and say, well, just because you did a view on this class, you can use that on another. The other interesting, and just to kind of sum this up as well too, the other interesting portfolio that we did, I believe, end up denying was a psychology course on death and dying, and the student had some really moving descriptions of her involvement with grieving families and some interesting exhibits, but never any understanding of the theories and principles of death and dying. So a lot of our students might look at some of these courses and think, well, I've lived this, and so I should get credit for it. So we all need to, so whether you're coming here today as a faculty member who is interested to see whether they want to get into assessment, or else a person that really works with our students and wants to help our students succeed and complete degrees in a more timely fashion. The real important thing is for all of us to kind of work on that same team to really help our students understand what PLA is all about and what's the most appropriate for them. And yeah, they may think that, oh, okay, I want these 6 courses. Then we all can play a role too to help them figure out, well, what makes the best common sense for you. Let's do one at a time.
by all means, maybe you should get one under the belt to see, to do that. Let's pick the one that makes most sense for you in terms of challenging for PLA. The folks that we have, and we said, we've had the 6 successful portfolios so far, and all of them I can tell you is those individuals in these particular situations, they were almost, they were this close to getting the degree. They needed a business elective. They needed a CIT elective. And so I think all 6 of them, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, they could probably save them a term. We got them the credential where they didn't have to come back and take that one course that they would have had to sit through all term long and say, but I know this, et cetera, too. So give them the opportunity. But then the other thing that I really, the comment from West Hills, too, in terms of our trade programs, that there is a big opportunity for us to be real strategic with this. And too, it's like if there are these adults out there, that really have an opportunity to gain a credential and get those jobs that they really might need that degree, is if we can they can prove that they've learned so much at the introductory level, so that maybe we're awarding the first 3 credits or the first 6 credits. At least they're coming in and getting a jump start on that degree with us. And so maybe they'll be able to complete in 3 years rather than 3.5, 2 years instead of 3 and 7. So it's those kinds of opportunities we really want to be able to not only be able to have the system to evaluate, mentor students through the portfolio process and award credit through the assessment process, but I really like, and that's the whole concept of the summit today, is to get more and more people understanding what it's all about so that we can recognize opportunities and guide students in this direction when it's most appropriate for them. Are there any further questions before we bid adieu?
Diane?
Is there any further color in terms of bringing back testing centers back to CCAC?
I have not heard any conversation about the actual assessment centers coming back here. I think there's quite a few testing centers around there doing that, so I don't know if there is any talk about that at this point.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you so much. I hope that you've learned some good things. I'm going to ask Fiona also to kind of send out some links to you. We've got a couple great videos that explain both PLA from the umbrella perspective and then how to develop a portfolio. So make sure you signed in at your location too, so that we know that you are present, and we'll be sending out some more information and links to resources so that you've got all the resources that you need.